start of narration. The final hours of a life, counted down not in years or days, but in minutes and seconds. For Kevin Ray Underwood, this countdown began in a place some have called a concrete tomb, the H Unit of the Oklahoma State Penitentiary. Amnesty International described the conditions there as inhumane, a brutal setting for the end of a brutal story. As his execution drew near, Underwood was moved to a different cell, one known ominously as the Death House. It's a small, isolated room right next to the execution chamber itself. This is where the final, meticulous protocol of death begins. Once inside the death house, the world shrinks to the size of a single cell. Underwood was placed under constant watch. There were no more walks in the yard, no more interactions with the general population. His meals were brought directly to him. His only contact with the outside world was through carefully managed visits from his family, his lawyers, or a prison chaplain. The role of the chaplain in these final moments is profound. They aren't just there for religious guidance. They become a final human connection. They might help an inmate write one last letter, say a prayer, or simply sit in silence, bearing witness to the immense weight of the final wait. It's a time saturated with anxiety, isolation, and a strange procedural calm as the prison staff meticulously prepares for what's to come. One of the most mythologized aspects of an execution is the last meal. It's a tradition in the United States, a symbolic gesture intended to recognize the humanity of the condemned before the end. We've all seen the movies where inmates order extravagant feasts. The reality is far more mundane. The meal is usually restricted by a very strict, modest budget. For Kevin Ray Underwood, this last request was a final personal choice before the state's protocol took over completely. After this meal, he was allowed to sleep. But you can imagine, sleep doesn't come easily in the shadow of your own execution. Many inmates spend this last night awake, writing letters, reflecting on their lives, or just sitting with the crushing silence of their thoughts. The morning of the execution arrives with a chilling finality. Underwood was awakened at a set time. The routine is precise, designed to be smooth and without incident. His standard prison uniform was exchanged for a clean one. He was briefed on the exact sequence of events that would follow, so there would be no surprises. The chaplain, who had been a constant presence, could remain by his side until the very end. While this personal preparation was happening, the execution chamber was being readied with equal precision. Medical staff and officials checked and double-checked every piece of equipment, ensuring that the protocol would be carried out flawlessly. It's a strange duality, the deeply personal emotional turmoil of one man set against the cold, dispassionate efficiency of the state. The moment finally arrived. Underwood was escorted on his final walk to the execution chamber. Imagine stepping into that room. Everything is in place, waiting. The gurney, resembling a hospital bed, is the centerpiece. An electrocardiogram machine is ready to monitor the heart. A telephone sits nearby, a silent symbol of the slimmest hope, a last-minute call from the governor that could grant a stay of execution. And then there's the curtain, a physical barrier separating the condemned from the witnesses who have gathered to watch. This group often includes the victim's family, journalists, and state officials. They are there to see justice, as they define it, be done. Like most states that practice capital punishment, Oklahoma uses lethal injection. It's a method that was designed to appear more humane than previous forms of execution. The process typically involves a 3-drug cocktail. First, a powerful anesthetic, like midazolam or pentobarbital, is administered. The goal is to render the inmate completely unconscious, unable to feel what comes next. Following the anesthetic, a second drug is introduced. This is a paralytic agent, pancuronium bromide, which stops all muscle movement, including the diaphragm, effectively halting the person's breathing. Finally, a massive dose of potassium chloride is injected directly into the bloodstream. This chemical immediately disrupts the electrical signals of the heart. causing a massive and fatal cardiac arrest within seconds. For the medical staff and executioners, their actions are governed by a strict, step-by-step guide. They insert IV lines, they administer the drugs in the correct order, and they monitor the machines. For the inmate, strapped to the gurney, it's the final, irreversible moments of consciousness. The curtain is pulled back. The witnesses watch. The warden gives the signal. The anesthetic begins to flow, and the world fades to black. Shortly after, the subsequent drugs complete their work. The electrocardiogram flatlines. A doctor enters the chamber, performs a final check, and officially declares the time of death. For Kevin Ray Underwood, that moment came on his birthday. Throughout his trial and appeals, his lawyers had argued that Underwood suffered from severe mental illnesses, presenting a portrait of a deeply disturbed individual. They argued that these conditions should have been a mitigating factor, a reason to spare his life. But the jury, and later the courts, disagreed. The brutality of his crime outweighed any claims of diminished capacity in the eyes of the law. His execution was the final tragic chapter in a story that began with the loss of an innocent child and ended with another life extinguished by the state. It leaves us with difficult questions about justice, mental health, and the ultimate price of a crime. Thank you so much for joining me to explore this complex and somber topic. If you found this video informative, please consider liking and subscribing for more deep dives into fascinating and important stories. Your support helps the channel grow. See you in the next one.